know there is nothing new under the sun. He lets us know how life works. He lets us know of his experiences of pursuing his own pleasures. And a word he continues to use in the book is vanity. From the Hebrew word avel, meaning nothingness, vapor. And truly, brothers and sisters, if we look at life from that perspective, life and everything in it, this physical, material world, it all amounts to nothing. It all becomes a vapor. All of the things we do, all of the things we accomplish, the sex we enjoy, the drinking, the smoking, the cussing, the happy times. Now y'all should know by now I talk straight. The hype, the clothing, the friends, everything ultimately amounts to nothing. Everything. The flip side to this book is that in the midst of giving so much wisdom and practical advice about life and philosophically musing on how best we should live, what are some of the things we should be involved in and doing, how should we find lasting, ultimate, good meaning in this life, Solomon tells us it is to live a life that is oriented to serving God, fearing God, obeying God's law, living life that is balanced, that is purposefully seeking to abstain from immorality and wickedness, and pursuing a life filled with sinful pleasure. This is why, brothers and sisters, this book is my favorite book in the Bible. Because it really lets me know no matter what I do or accomplish in life, it's nothing. No matter how far we may go and monuments we may build to ourselves and the amount of education we acquire and the way we come on, like we are bulwark and double conqueror, everything will amount to nothing. This book humbles me, brothers and sisters, to stay focused on what truly matters, to be purposed to do my best to live well with people, even if and when people don't want to live well with me. Because at the end of the day, it's all gonna abound to nothing. Vanity and vexation of spirit. And here in chapter 3, verses 1 through to 13, Solomon essentially lets us know we need to know the time. He says to everything there's a season, a time for every purpose under heaven. There's a time to born, and there's a time to die. All of us who are here, our time came when we were born. And we go through the natural gestational period until we exit the womb and we become babies and toddlers, and until we become adolescents and teens and young adults, then to adults, and some of you now are in old age. But brothers and sisters, in this life continuum, just as we surely we will surely die. And the wisdom of knowing that we're going to die, brothers and sisters, is to know what to do with our time in the in-between. Are you listening to me? It does not matter who you are, what you have accomplished, just in color, your hair texture, the way you tan and the way you steer, and if you're living outside of church or if you're a member of the church, irrespective, as long as you are a human being, you are going to die. Solomon says there's a time to be born and there's a time to die. And the wisdom of it all is to know what to do in between, and that is to honor God, to serve God, and to live well with people. He says there's a time to plant and a time to pluck what is planted. There's a time where we dig up the ground, we break it up, we plow it, and we plant the seed, and we watch for a couple of months for it to germinate and to grow and to eventually bear fruit. But there's also a time, brothers and sisters, where that which was planted has to be plucked up. There's a time in our lives where we have to plant things, whether it is literal, metaphorical, or symbolic. We have to plant, we have to sow into people, we have to invest our time, but there is also a time where we have to pluck up and pull up some things that were planted, and deracinate, to root up some things that would have taken deep root and are seeking to suck the life out of us. He says there's a time to kill and a time to heal. He doesn't mean here that there's a time for us to become murderers and killers. That's not what he's saying here, even though it happens and people do that, but it's wrong. As a king, one of his responsibilities would be to hear people's cases, to adjudicate justice and judgment. And so sometimes if cases come to him and it requires capital punishment, as a king he would have to say, execute that person. That's what he means here. There's a time to kill, but there's also a time to heal. And again, the wisdom of it all is to know what to do in between, because there are some of us, we're not kings like Solomon, we're not queens, we can't execute capital punishment, but with our mouth we can go around and kill people. With the bad look and the bad eye, I wonder if you're listening to me, we kill people. With the bad gestures and the unkind words and statements, we hurt people. That should not be. So Solomon says there's a time to heal. There is a time we have to come together. We have to reconcile. We have to put down the badness. We have to take up a different path. Are you listening to me? There is a time to let it go. The things that may have been bothering and hurting you, the things that people would have done to you and you can't forgive, you can't heal, let it go. There's a time for it. Are you hearing me? There's a time to break down and a time to build up. There's a time where you have to mash up some relationships. Are you listening to me? You have to break down some barriers and social constructs that are harming you, harming your family, and harming others. But there's also a time we have to build. And sadly, some people aren't wise enough to know when they should be building, they are breaking down. Let me tell you something straight up. If you're a member of this church or an adherent, we're trying to build. Are you listening to me? This is the time to build. And if you're not here to build, take away yourself. If you're here to break down and to tear down, listen, take away yourself. church, we need to be who and what we should be for the community. We need to be there to lift up. We need to be there to educate, to remind people to serve the Lord, to remind people that their lives have worth, they have meaning, they have value. And if you're not here to do that, if you're here just to get war and drama and chaos with people and to keep them mouths, he said, turn at your yard until you are ready to help us build. Are you listening to me? If you're a member of the church, if you're a regular attendant and you are not, you have no intention to help us build, and it's broke down, you are broke down, he said, turn at your yard. Because if we pursue a path of destruction, what is going to become of this church? What is going to become of the community? Are you listening to me, somebody? If we don't come together to build, if we don't come together to pull our resources together, and everybody's taking up something on the shoulder, and everybody is contributing a block or something, or availing themselves to do something, what are going to happen? If we're not here to try to stop the gossiping and the slander, and to stop fighting and quarreling with each other, and to stop getting involved with stuff with people out there, what is going to happen? I wonder if you're listening to me. Brothers and sisters, the church is not just a physical building. The church primarily is us, the people. Are you listening to me? The church is us, the people. And if we want the church to build up, to be the body of Christ and to be a light to the community, we have to build. We have to build. And so let me tell you straight up, if you can't find anything to focus on, to talk good about, to pray about, to try to encourage, to put $100 in the offering for to try help build the church, and all you want to do is chat and tear down and slander and gossip and live bad with people, go sit down in a one corner until you get it right and you're ready to build. Are you listening to me? Because this church needs to be what it shall be for the community. The time came when so many things broke down already. Well, the time is now for us to build. We need to build spiritually. We need to build socially. We need to build structurally. We need to build financially. We need to build relationally. Are you hearing me, somebody? The time has come to build. It is not time to tear down and to destroy and to have bad rapport and relationships with people. It is time to build. He says there's a time to weep and a time to laugh. I imagine that the family of Sister Francis and Brother Watson, and those of you who may be experiencing the death of a loved one or some critical illness, there might be some weeping now. There might be some sadness now and depression. It happens, it's normal. As a human, we will experience these fluctuations of emotions. There is a time to cry. But brothers and sisters, there's a time to laugh. You can't always cry. You can't always live in depression. You can't always live in misery. Things can't always be so bad that there's nothing to king your teeth over. As surely as you cry today, as the psalmist says, weeping may endure for a night, but joy must come in the morning. Find a reason to laugh. Find a reason to smile. Watch some kind of funny show and cartoon and kick your teeth. Belch out some big laugh. Because there's a time for it. I wonder if you're listening to me. When it's time to cry, bawl your eye water. Cry your eyes red. Let it out. Go through the seasons and periods of grief. But there's also a time to laugh. When it's time to laugh, me say laugh good. Make the laughs in quiet. There's a time for it. Life is about times and seasons, Solomon is saying here, and it's for us to have the wisdom to know the time. There's a time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather them together. There's a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. Sometimes you have to hug up something and some people and hold it tight. Sometimes you have to embrace like you're never gonna let go. But the time also comes when you have to let go. You have to release. You have to move on. You have to occupy yourself with other things. There's a time to gain and a time to lose. Sometimes we gain and sometimes we lose. Are you listening to me? Sometimes we gain wealth, we gain health, we gain family, we gain friends, we gain prosperity, we gain a time of everything seeming to be going all right, and life is good and life is sweet, but there's a time also when we lose friends, lose family, lose money, lose interest, lose focus. It happens. And the wisdom is to know what to do in between the gains and the losses. There's a time to keep and a time to dash away. Are you listening to me? There's a time where some things you have to hold on to. You have to fight to maintain, but a time will come when you also have to let it go. Throw it away. You see, brothers and sisters, so many times our lives become toxic. Some relationships become toxic because when the time came to throw away, to release, we want to hold on to them still. I wonder if you're listening to me. You have to know when to keep something, and you have to know when to throw it away, to let it go. If, brothers and sisters, after consuming something, you let the garbage pile up, you know why, let it go, eventually it's going to take over your whole house. It's going to eventually cause a bad stench. It's eventually going to become unlivable. And it's going to damage your physical health. There's a time to keep. There's a time you got to throw away. You got to let it go. There's a time to tear and a time to sew back. There's a time to keep silence and a time to speak. Brothers and sisters, can I talk to you? There are some times and situations when we have to keep a remote. You're not listening to me. There are times and situations where we have to be quiet. We have to keep our mouth shut. We have to be silent. But some of us, we just want chat till we go to drop around. And we wonder how we often get ourselves in some problems and some hard situations. We weren't made to talk incessantly. There's a time that we have to be silent. We have to listen attentively. We have to process information. We have to figure out what to do with the information and then act on it. When it's time to be silent, don't talk. Are you hearing me? But sadly, some people don't have the wisdom to know when to keep their mouth shut. And so they talk more than they listen. And eventually it causes a lot of problems. Anytime you see people like to chat more than them like hear, problems. Gossiping, tale-bearing, labba mouth, and the list goes on. Can't live good with people. Always I go around the tear down and trying to find some new news and this, that, and the other. Brothers and sisters, we have to know when to be silent. We have to know when to keep our mouths closed and to control our tongues. There's a proverb that says death and life is in the power of the tongue, and the one who loves it eats the fruit. If you keep talking, and for everything you have to be venting, and the slightest thing you're angry that you cuss out people, you will get yourself in problems. There's a time to keep silent, but there's also a time when you have to talk up. There's also a time you have to talk up the frustrations, talk up the pain, talk about what is oppressing you, talk about what is harming you and doing you wrong. Speak up for the voiceless. There is a time to talk up. There's a time to keep silent, yes, but there is a time you have to put on your foot and you have to talk. Are you listening to me? And sadly, when some of us should talk, we keep our mouth shut, and that's how oppression continues. Let me tell you something. There's a chronic sexual abuse situation in Jamaica. And it's predominantly in families, where sometimes it's either the boyfriend, the father, the uncle, the brothers, somebody is molesting the picnic. And the females, the women, the mother, the aunties, they shield the abusers. And the cycle continues. Brothers and sisters, that's when you should talk up. I wonder if you're listening to me. If you see things are happening and it poses a threat to the health and the safety of the community and your family, you need to talk up. Talk up the things them. If somebody is mistreating you, abuse you, exploit you, you need to speak up. If the situation is going on long and it seems like it's not going to change and they won't stop the oppressive behaviors, you need to speak up. Let your voice be heard. Help someone some way. There's a time to be quiet, yes, but when it's time to talk, you need to talk. Make your talk. Because if you don't talk, situation may not ever change. Those who should know about what is wrong will never know. And it will end up being a cycle of abuse, of dysfunctionality, and of all that will continue to tear down the family, tear down the church, tear down the community, until eventually we can't live good again. We're always at war. No peace, no sanity, just pure madness and badness. We can't live so, brothers and sisters. When it's time to talk, we need to talk up. There's a time to love and a time to hate. There's a time where we just have to love everybody. But there's a time we have to hate what some people are doing. Are you listening to me? There's a time we have to respect, love everybody, embrace, and mean them well. But if after a time people prove themselves to not be worthy of your love and your respect, and of you not supporting them, then you have to turn away from that. Are you listening to me? There's a time of war and a time of peace. We're not in the military. Because there's always a time for war in the military, and there's a time for peace too between nations. But even amongst us in our relationships, it happens. There's a time where you have to face the issues. You have to face the challenges. You have to stand up for yourself. You have to go to war until you can get peace. You see, sometimes if you don't go to war, you can't get no peace. Sometimes if you don't let your head take you and go along back and draw out your machete, you can't get peace. I wonder if you're listening to me. Sometimes you have to get up and go to war. Sometimes you have to stand up for your rights, yes, Brother Watson. Because if you don't do so, there will be no peace. So when it's time for war, go to war. You tell people all the while, you know, yes, I'm a pastor, but don't feel like you could just run upon me and feel like you want to hurt me or my family. I do everything in my power to make peace and to be peaceful. But if you feel like you could just run upon me and threaten me and my family and the church that I'm in charge of protecting, I will tell Jesus, give me 5 minutes. Me would take Jesus out to me and put him here, son. And I will go back into the old gangster alley that you don't want. I wonder if you're listening to me. Yeah, man, me will do that. Me will do that. There's a time for war. If you come and I try to peacefully reason with you and try to de-escalate the situation, you don't want that, brother. My hand never left up in a me mother. Just like how you have 2 hands, me have 2 hands too. If church is trying to peacefully worship and have service and bless the community, and you feel like you could just come in here and do what you want, go and how you want, and disrupt and cause chaos, hey, that's not gonna happen. Because if we try cast out the demons and them not come out, if we have to use physical force, we are gonna do it. I wonder if you're listening to me. Sometimes to have peace and to have safety and to have security, you have to go to war. Sometimes some of you ladies are in a relationship and left, right, and center, the man will physically abuse you. He want to fight you, he want to kick you, he want to threaten your life. Sometimes you have to get up and put strength behind you and go to war. I wonder if you're listening to me. Sometimes it's the only way to save your life. If you have to cook him a nice pot of hot corn meal and feed him it when he's sleeping, go to war. Yeah, man, a pastor, they tell you so. I tired of reading on the news these guys who have no love and respect for women, have, after abusing them for years and years, eventually just kill them and bury them in shallow graves. Sometimes to save your life and your picnic and your family, you have to go to war. Stand up for your rights. He throw a leg, throw one back. Run for the machete or the knife, defend yourself. If you want peace, you may often have to go to war. You can't sit on so and just let people have butter bruise yourself. You're not a punching bag. Hello? God did not make you to be an object of abuse. Stand up for yourself. And as fast as you can run from that situation, run. Me say run. And find a better context and environment for you to be in. There is a time and a season for everything under the sun. And the wisdom is to know when is the right time to do and to abstain from doing. Are you hearing me? And as I close, Solomon says, what profit has the worker in all that which he labors? I have seen the God-given task with which the Son of Men are to be occupied. He has made everything beautiful in its time, and also He has put eternity in our hearts so that we can find out the work of God when He does from the beginning. I know that there's nothing better than to rejoice and to do good in life, and also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of all his labor. It is the gift of God. Brothers and sisters, we must know the time. We aren't here to be forever. Know the time. We aren't here, brothers and sisters, to go along bad like bullbuck and duppy conqueror all the time. Know the time. We aren't here to ignore God, ignore His word, ignore moral principles, ignore building our families, ignore building the church. We are here to know the time. And in the midst of everything that goes on in this life, we need the wisdom to know and to understand it is always the right time to serve God. It is always the right time to love family. It is always the right time to live with a good purpose. It is always the right time to not kill ourselves with work, but to enjoy that which God has blessed us with. And so if God has blessed you with something, eat it good, drink it good, fellowship good. I wonder if you're listening to me. Dress good, smell good, because in the midst of all of this is always the right time to enjoy life in Jesus. As 2023 has come now, brothers and sisters, it is time for us to get back to God. It is time for us to enjoy some life in Jesus. It is time for us to focus on what matters. It is time for us to put all hands on deck and all heads together, and let's work to build God's kingdom, to build the church, to build the community. It is time. It is time. It's time for us to get back to focus on that which truly matters. It is time. In the midst of our day-to-day activities, Solomon says it's time to enjoy God's gift. It is time to live for the purpose for which He has made us, to be focused on eternity, to honestly work with our hands and to labor so that we can eat, we can feed our families, and we can share with each other. It is time. The time for us to be doing foolishness is long past. The time for us to be talking about me can't come yet, me can't serve God yet, it is past, because you don't know if you'll see the next week. I wonder if you're listening to me. It's always the right time to serve the Lord and to enjoy what He has blessed you with. It's always the right time to submit your life to Jesus. It's always the right time to live good with people. It is time. There's a time and season for everything. There's a purpose for everything under heaven. And the wisdom in all of this is to know the right time. When to do, when to be. And brothers and sisters, the time for us to change our approach, to live right, to do what is right, to serve God and get serious about our mortality, the fact that we're gonna die, and our need for Jesus. It is now the time for us to focus on leaving a good legacy for our children, not just a physical materialistic legacy, but also a spiritual one. It is now. Amen. The time is now. The time is now. The time is now. God bless you.